At 2:13 in the morning, his phone lit up. "Come home, I need you." He was 2 hours away, out with friends, finally breathing. He stared at the message, already knowing the answer, not because it made sense, but because he didn't feel like he had a choice. When he got there, she was asleep. No emergency, no crisis, just silence. That's when it hit him. "I don't think I'm her partner anymore. I think I'm her caretaker. We'll call him Alex." And for 3 years, he believed he was in love. And maybe he was. But somewhere along the way, love changed shape. It stopped being something they shared and started becoming something he managed. She had her struggles, real ones. There were days she disappeared into herself completely. No energy, no movement, no response. And Alex understood that. He wasn't cruel. He'd done the work himself. Therapy, anxiety, depression. He knew what it took to fight your own mind. That's why, in the beginning, he didn't question anything. He adapted, he showed up, he stayed. But something didn't sit right, because the pattern wasn't random. It was precise, predictable, almost timed. Every time Alex stepped away, every time he tried to have a life outside of her, something would happen. A message, a crash, a sudden need. And each time, he ran. Not because he wanted to, because it felt like he had to. That night wasn't the first time. It was just the first time he saw it clearly. Halloween music, noise, people. For a moment, he wasn't thinking about responsibility. He was just there. Then the message came. Short, urgent, no details, just enough to pull him back in. 2 hours. That's how far he was. And still, he left. Drove the entire way back, running scenarios in his head. What if something's wrong? What if she needs me? What if I don't go? What if this is the one time it's real? But when he opened the door, nothing. No chaos, no breakdown, no emergency. Just her, asleep, sedated, safe. And him, standing there, exhausted, trying to understand why it felt like he had just passed, or failed, some kind of test. Later, when I asked him about that moment, he didn't say he was angry. He didn't say he was relieved. He said, "It felt like I failed something, but I don't even know what the rules are." That's when the pattern became visible, because this wasn't about a single night, and it wasn't just about her struggle. It was about something far more dangerous, an invisible system, where love wasn't freely given. It was constantly proven. It didn't stop after that night. If anything, that's when it became clearer, because now Alex was watching for it. Not consciously, but something in him had started paying attention. There was another night, nothing dramatic, no crisis, just a simple plan. He was going out. He told her in advance, checked in, made sure she was okay. Everything normal until it wasn't. Halfway through the night, his phone buzzed. "I'm hungry." That was it. No panic, no breakdown. Just a request. He paused, because this time, something felt different. Not urgent, not critical, just expected. He tried something new, something small. He said, "Can you handle it? I'll check on you later." Silence. Then the shift. The tone changed. Suddenly, it wasn't about food anymore. It became heavier, sharper, like he had just crossed a line he didn't know existed. The situation turned fast. What started as a simple request became a problem, a serious one. Energy dropped, mood collapsed. Everything became overwhelming. And just like that, he was back in the same position. Do I stay or do I go back? And that's when it clicked. Not fully, not clearly, but enough to feel it. This wasn't random. It wasn't just bad timing, because it only seemed to happen when he stepped away, when his attention wasn't there. When his life didn't revolve around her. That's when things started to fall apart. If you step back and look at it, the pattern becomes hard to ignore. Not because it's obvious, but because it repeats, over and over and over again. Something triggers discomfort. He responds immediately. The discomfort fades, and the moment passes, but something else stays behind. Something quiet, something learned. No one ever said it out loud. There was no agreement, no conversation, But the rule was there, clear as anything. When I fall, you come. And every time he did, the rule got stronger. So I asked him something simple, something he didn't expect. What do you think happens if you don't go? He didn't answer right away, because the question wasn't practical, it wasn't logical, it was threatening. His first instinct was immediate. No, she needs me. Not aggressive, not defensive, just certain, like the answer had been decided long before the question was asked. But certainty like that usually hides something, because this wasn't just about her anymore, and it wasn't just about the situation. It was about what he believed would happen if he stopped. Not inconvenience, not frustration. Something worse, fear. Not loud, not obvious, but sitting underneath everything. Because if he didn't go, if he didn't respond, if he didn't fix it, what then? Up to this point, everything pointed in one direction. Her behavior, her reactions, her crises. But that's only half the system, because patterns like this don't hold together unless both sides are feeding it. So I stopped looking at her, and I started looking at him. Not what he was doing, but why he couldn't stop. It didn't take long, because the pattern wasn't new. It just had a different face. He grew up in a house where someone was always unwell, a constant condition, not temporary, not occasional, constant. And without anyone ever saying it directly, a role was assigned. He became the one who stayed, the one who helped, the one who didn't leave. At first, it looks like strength, responsibility, loyalty, but over time, it becomes something else, something quieter, more dangerous, a belief, not spoken, not conscious, but deeply wired. If I'm not needed, then what am I? And once that belief takes hold, you don't just help people, you start needing them to need you. So when he met her, it didn't feel like a problem. It felt right, natural, familiar. She needed support. He knew how to give it. No confusion, no hesitation, just a perfect fit. But here's the part no one sees at the beginning. What feels like purpose can slowly become dependency, not hers, his. Because if she gets better, if she doesn't need him anymore, then what happens to his role? This is where it breaks, because now the question changes. It's no longer, why does she act this way? It becomes, why does he stay in it? Every time she struggled, he stepped in. Every time he stepped in, he reinforced something, not just for her, for himself. I am necessary. I matter because I fix this. I belong here. But there's a cost to that, always, because the moment your value is tied to someone else's instability, you stop being a partner and start becoming a function. And that's why he couldn't walk away. Not because he didn't see the pattern, but because walking away meant something worse. It meant losing the only version of himself that he knew how to be. That's when everything changes, because now, this isn't just about her behavior, and it's not just about the relationship. It's about identity, and what happens when that identity starts to collapse. Once you see a pattern like this, you can't unsee it, and that's where things get difficult, because awareness doesn't fix anything, it just removes the illusion. So I asked him something he had been avoiding the entire time. What would happen if you didn't respond? Not later, not after checking in, not halfway, just didn't go. He didn't hesitate this time. The answer came fast, too fast. She might spiral. She might lose control. A pause, then quieter. She might hurt herself. And there it was. Not the pattern, not the behavior. The thing holding everything in place. Fear. Not loud, not dramatic, just constant, sitting underneath every decision he made. So I told him something he didn't want to hear. You are not responsible for what she might do, not because it doesn't matter, but because taking responsibility for it has already cost you everything. He pushed back. Of course he did. That's not how it works. I can't just ignore it. I can't be that person, because in his mind, not responding didn't feel like a boundary. It felt like abandonment. And that's the distortion, because stepping back isn't the same as walking away. And support doesn't mean constant access. What he was doing wasn't partnership anymore. It was management. And management always comes with control, even when it doesn't look like it. So the choice in front of him wasn't simple. It wasn't, do I help her or not? It was, do I keep this system alive, or do I risk breaking it? And breaking it meant doing something he had never done before. Not dramatically, not aggressively, just differently. The next time it happened, he didn't rush. He didn't drop everything. He paused. And that pause felt unbearable, because for the first time, he wasn't playing his role. And without that role, he didn't know who he was supposed to be. She noticed immediately. Of course she did. You're different, not angry, not explosive, just afraid. I knew this was coming. I knew I was losing you. And that's when it became real, because this wasn't manipulation, not in the way people think. It was fear, on both sides. Two people, both trapped in the same system, finally seeing it for what it is. And once that happens, there's no going back to how things were. 6 months don't fix something like this. They don't erase it. They just change the shape of it. Alex didn't leave, but he also didn't stay the same. The emergencies still came, but something else changed. His response, or more accurately, his delay. Not rejection, not abandonment, just space. A gap where the automatic reaction used to be. At first, the silence was unbearable, because silence used to mean something was wrong. Now it just meant nothing was happening. And that was new. For Sarah, the change didn't feel like freedom at first. It felt like loss. Because when the pattern breaks, you don't just lose the crisis, you lose the response you were used to receiving. Therapy wasn't dramatic. There were no breakthroughs, no sudden transformations, just repetition, awareness, and the slow, exhausting process of learning. I can sit with this feeling without handing it to someone else. And for Alex, the harder truth arrived later. Helping someone survive every moment is not the same as helping them live, because one builds dependency and the other builds separation. There's something no one tells you about relationships like this. If you're always needed, you never get to know what happens when you're not. And if you're always rescuing, you never learn if they can stand on their own. Slowly, something changed, not perfectly, not cleanly, but enough to notice. The calls didn't disappear, but the urgency did, and that difference changed everything. One night, she said it directly, not as blame, not as fear, just honesty. I don't know how to do this without pulling you into it. And for the first time, he didn't rush to solve it. He just said, I know, and then, I'm still here. But I can't do it for you anymore. No drama, no collapse, just truth. That's what boundary actually looks like. Not distance, not punishment, but clarity. Staying present, without becoming the system that holds everything together. Alex once believed love meant fixing someone, saving them, holding everything together so nothing falls apart. Now he understands something different. Love is not rescue, it's not control, and it's definitely not sacrifice. Because the moment you become someone's entire stability, you stop being their partner and start becoming their structure, and no relationship survives that forever. If this investigation resonated, you're already familiar with the pattern. It appears in different stories, but it behaves the same way. This was Case 01 from the Psychiatrist Journal. If you want to continue the archive, you know what to do.